Good morning, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers for their efforts in making possible this event that allows researchers and clinicians from different countries and universities to meet and interact, and for the opportunity given to me to speak. Thank you very much. Before starting, just a few words about me. I am Dr. Maria Chiara Maccarone, a physical medicine and rehabilitation resident at the University of Padua in Italy, where I work in a research team with a particular interest on rehabilitation in thermal environment. My presentation today will introduce you to what are the two words I know best: rehabilitation and balneotherapy. In particular, I will try to give you a little taste of what are our latest projects in this field, especially concerning the applications of modern technologies in traditional spa treatments. Before I begin, I would like to say that I am very proud to represent my research unit and the University of Padua in this year in which we are celebrating the 800th anniversary from its foundation. In my physical medicine and rehabilitation unit, particular interest is devoted to the study and the research on water-based treatment of musculoskeletal and neurological diseases. In addition, an important section of research is dedicated to health resort medicine, as defined by Gutenbrunner in an interesting paper published in 2010 that is a method that includes both traditional spa therapies and their applications in rehabilitation. In fact, thanks to the proximity of the Euganian thermal basin, in my rehabilitation unit and therefore in my research group, great interest is dedicated to the use of the natural resource for the treatment of patients with various types of pathologies. The possibility of having a relationship with the thermal structures and the Euganian thermal basin has meant that for many years my research group has been implementing projects involving the use of traditional thermal therapies together with the conventional rehabilitative strategies. Health resort medicine has the special feature of being able to combine traditional thermal interventions such as thermal baths, inhalations and mud therapy, rehabilitative strategies and interventions aimed at improving quality of life. All these are performed in an environment in which several highly specialized professionals work together to contribute to the overall care of the patients. Definitely, an area in which my research team has worked in an intensive manner so far is the development of projects that took into consideration patients with musculoskeletal pathologies. In particular, in recent years, clinical studies have been carried out that have taken into consideration patients with knee osteoarthritis who have performed an health resort and rehabilitative treatment in the thermal environment, showing how these treatments can be beneficial for improving motor function and reducing pain. More recently, studies were conducted on patients who had undergone hip arthroplasty operations. These research projects have also led to the demonstration of the feasibility of a rehabilitation and educative program conducted in the thermal environment. In addition, recent studies have also focused on pathologies less frequently studied so far in the spa environment. In particular, we have investigated the role of rehabilitation in the spa environment for patients with Parkinson's disease, showing how at the early stage of Parkinson's disease, conducting exercise in the thermal water can be useful in improving the motor function, balance, and overall motor symptoms, reducing typical symptoms such as bradykinesia. Recently, a survey conducted by the World Health Organization showed that during the period of the COVID-19 pandemic, one of the medical services to have suffered the greatest reduction in supply was rehabilitation. This situation was particularly felt in Italy, where the pandemic had particularly severe health consequences. It was therefore necessary to think of alternative ways of taking care of patients with rehabilitation needs closer to the community and more easily accessible. For this reason, in my operating unit, we started to integrate telemedicine with rehabilitation interventions in the spa environment, exploiting an alternative environment to the hospital setting that could be easier to reach at a time when hospital facilities were overloaded. We therefore developed innovative pathways of integration between rehabilitative strategies and health resort interventions. In particular, we thought of 3 clinical research projects involving the rehabilitation care through health result medicine methods of patients with osteoarthritis, lymphedema, and long COVID syndrome. On these patients, we are developing both preclinical and clinical research projects that require the exploitment of spa facilities with particular requirements. We have therefore started to collaborate to health resort facilities who have a highly trained multidisciplinary team at their disposal and who can offer rehabilitation treatments to patients. For all the projects, we are integrating traditional methodics with telemedicine and telerehabilitation tools. Indeed, all our projects include taking care of patients also by means of telerehabilitation and monitoring through a specially created platform. In addition, we are developing a database for the collection of epidemiological and clinical data of patients treated not only in the Euganean thermal basin, but gradually throughout Italy. Since our research group has recently gained a relatively large amount of experience on the rehabilitation of patients with outcomes after acute SARS-CoV-2 virus infection, an interesting line of research we are developing is that of the applications of health resort medicine to patients with long COVID outcomes. We have recently published several manuscripts in which we have addressed the various aspects of the long COVID syndrome and their possible treatment in the thermal environment. Some of these manuscripts have considered respiratory sequelae, showing that in the literature there is some evidence that inhalation therapies may also be beneficial in this kind of patients. Another strand of research has instead considered the musculoskeletal disabilities and the persistent fatigue that can result from COVID-19 infection. In both cases, interesting perspectives seem to open up for this type of patient to treatment in the thermal environment. Rehabilitation could therefore also include the integration of traditional health resort strategies. It is precisely for this reason that we have developed this research project, which take into account the treatment of patients with medium or long-term outcomes after the COVID-19 infection. In a first phase, the research project will involve the in vitro evaluation of the interaction between the virus and host cells in the spa environment. A second phase will involve the evaluation of patients treated using health resort medicine methods and telerehabilitation strategies. The integration of traditional strategies and increasingly futuristic rehabilitation strategies will open up new perspectives for rehabilitation in the spa environment. Currently, in fact, the guidelines for patients suffering from long-term sequelae after COVID-19 infection suggests multidisciplinary care, which therefore include the integration of several professional figures who focus on the patient's different needs, which may be respiratory, motor, related to chronic fatigue, or even cognitive and psychological disorders remaining after the resolution of the acute infection. According to currently accepted guidelines, however, this type of care must be developed autonomously or by means of rehabilitation services that provide for inpatient or outpatient access. All these perspectives therefore refer to the hospital environment, which during the pandemic has resulted overloaded and in which the professional figures are in any case in reduced number. In order to meet this need for interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary care and rehabilitation of medium or intensive modalities for patients with long COVID syndrome, our proposal is to move a part of patients to the spa environment and dedicate highly specialized professionals to them, making use of new technologies and modalities described by telemedicine. Our proposal has found recognition from the Veneto region, where our university is located, which has decided to establish a reference center for the entire region at our university, combining telerehabilitation technologies and spa treatment. First of all, our proposal envisages integrating in the spa environment the use of telemedicine methods that allow remote monitoring of vital parameters, consultation with highly specialized personnel who would otherwise only be found in a hospital setting, and the possibility that these highly professional figures can communicate with each other to define a multidisciplinary rehabilitation program for the patient with different types of needs. In addition to this, the use of telemedicine methods allows the patient in the spa environment to have access to telerehabilitation sessions in which the exercises to be performed can be shown remotely by an operator or a physiotherapist who may be in another context. However, the advantages of telemedicine and therefore telerehabilitation are many more. It is enough to think that these include the possibility of also involving the caregiver in the treatment to lighten the ordinary activities of the hospital and therefore to avoid overloading it, and to reduce the cost of personnel and environments necessary for rehabilitation. In addition, it is possible to improve the multidisciplinary care and to minimize the waiting time necessary in order to access the rehabilitation service. Moreover, the possibility of offering a telerehabilitation service allows the physician or other specialist figures involved in the rehabilitation program to assess the patient in a different setting from the hospital one. I am thinking, for example, of spa settings in which exercises or activities different from those that could be conducted in the hospital setting are possible. Finally, the possibility of collecting and transmitting data taken directly from the patient during the performance of rehabilitation activities is a further great advantage of rehabilitation through the use of telecommunication systems. In particular, the possibility of using wearable devices can allow the physician at any time to monitor the patient and have real-time indications regarding the patient's health and rehabilitation status. Furthermore, the use of applications for smartphones with which everyone nowadays is equipped, or the exploitation of platforms available on computers with an internet connection are additional tools that simplify the management issues. Lastly, One last aspect I would like to focus on is cost effectiveness. Obviously, the project I have described so far is a project on which we are currently collecting data, so we do not yet have definitive data on cost effectiveness. But what we do know is that for other types of patients, such as patients with musculoskeletal disabilities and rheumatological diseases, for example, such as osteoarthritis, the cost effectiveness evaluations that have been carried out so far have shown a reduction in costs, and I am talking about direct medical costs and also indirect medical costs. Therefore, developing multidisciplinary programs in the spa environment that also provide for the use of telerehabilitation methods, which is further capable of reducing costs, could be a solution to bring an economic benefit to the health services of the various states, thus resulting in a valid alternative to hospital management. With this consideration regarding the cost effectiveness of the proposed interventions, I have concluded. I hope that my presentation today has awakened your curiosity and that it stimulates future collaborations. Thank you very much for your attention.